Hello, and welcome to Talk.Therapy.Heal, a dynamic and engaging show that endeavors to shatter the many stigmas surrounding mental health and therapy. Talk.Therapy.Heal is a collective of licensed counselors, therapists, and life coaches unique in areas of specialization, expertise, and experience. Through the art of curated, genuine, compassionate conversation, we get to the deep things. We are so excited you chose to begin your healing journey with us. Tune in to Talk Therapy Heal.
Hey everyone, we are back with part 2. We're just gonna dive right back into the conversation that we was having from the last episode, how it all started. This is in honor of Black History Month. Gonna go ahead and read this disclaimer. We will be discussing sensitive topics related to slavery, race, mental health, and the Willie Lynch letter, a document often referenced in discussions of racial oppression, though its origins are debated. This conversation aims to explore history and promote healing. Listener discretion is advised. And if you need support, consider reaching out to a mental health professional. Let's dive on in.
All right, because we've been having some good
conversation.
Off the camera, and y'all need to hear this.
Yes.
This is a conversation. So let's just dig right back into where we were.
Ooh, let me get a
What they say,
hashtag real quick.
as you were.
As you were. Hashtag post-traumatic slave disorder.
Ooh.
Let's get it.
All right.
Whew. Okay, what were we talking? We were talking about a lot of things,
Yes.
right? I don't even know. Do we start into this? Do we start where Kenya was? Like, can you just pick it up for us?
Or do you want me to give the critical awakening versus the critical deconstruction?
Yeah.
What y'all think?
Yeah, let's do that one. And
You
then
sure?
get in. Yes.
Okay, so this is a definition. We did not come up with this. ChatGPT helped us out, okay? So critical awakening or critical destruction. As we're having this conversation, think about this. For a more reflective approach, especially in context where someone actively reassesses beliefs or systems they've been taught to accept without questioning. And in parentheses, we put blind sheep. All right.
So wait, we're talking about critical deconstruction. So what?
Or
This is
critical awakening. Which path are we wanting to take?
okay. So what we are doing is critical awakening.
Mhm.
So critical awakening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll get that. Critical awakening. I kind of want you to go back through that and slow down just a little bit when we're talking about critical awakening. So it's a more reflective.
For a more reflective approach, especially in context where someone actively reassesses beliefs or systems they've been taught to accept without question.
Okay.
Parenthesis, blind sheep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just go back to our episode of just pausing and taking time to reassess their beliefs and question, do you agree? Do you believe? Is it congruent with your beliefs today? So just giving us time to process what we've been fed, right? And not automatically just accept everything we hear.
Right.
Mhm.
Wow. So how do we come to that or get to that point where we're just accepting whatever has been fed, whatever is out there? And
Sorry, I'm ready to answer. Go ahead.
no, I want you to just jump in.
That's what we've always done. So we repeat what we've always done. But then I think it goes back to what we were speaking about in the last episode. We used to get the daylights beat out of us if we questioned anything. And not only did it start from the slave master, it continued down to the parents.
So that's where it started. You couldn't question. You were taught not to question the master. You don't say nothing. You don't come against what the master has to say. And if you did, you got whipped.
In front of everybody.
In front of
and
everybody.
humiliated.
Yes. And if you, I guess, spoke up too much, you were killed, not just whipped.
You were hung from a tree.
Yes.
Or It was something my husband used to say where, the dogs or, and we don't mean to be too graphic, but we have to be real, just like with counseling, because we can't just glaze over what caused the trauma. We have to identify it. That's what we're doing. But it was something I remember you had told me, like, I think they used to take parts of a slave and tie one part to one animal and one to the other, and then they would. So think about how graphic it is, but y'all want us to get over it. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And you're right. And so when you're thinking about that belief system and what we've been taught that we continue to carry down, I can't remember where I saw that at, but it was a video or a recording of a man, and he said this, that the worst slave is the one who asks the questions, and that's the one that you have to pick out to make an example of. And so ask yourself this question: how many times in your life when you grew up did you ask your parents, grandparents, somebody a question, and they was like, shh, you don't question that, even in the church.
You don't question God. Boy,
You don't question
all the time.
And so if you don't question anything, then you don't have any power to, one, make change, two, educate to find out why, and three, you end up staying in the same spot that you were at, which that's what they designed for you to do. The only time they want you to really question something is when it benefits them. And I hate to say it like that, but it is what history has shown us, and it continues to happen to this day. Even in the workplace, if you go and say, hey, the policy says this, but we're doing what? What? Look, you just do what I tell you to do. And it continues to go on and on and on. We even do it in our families.
You do it as a kid. Like, I think about my children now, and they will say, why, Mom? Or
damn.
What? Or how? And I will get angry because they're questioning me, right? Versus just going along. But then we say, now if you don't agree with something, you speak up. If we don't practice what we tell, we don't do in the house what we tell them to do outside the house. So then there's confusion. And so we're saying we want them to have critical awakening by questioning. Like, we need to first question our actions.
Yes.
All of it doesn't align, or it doesn't make sense.
Right.
And so think what that does for a child when they're confused.
Yeah.
And then they go to school and they're being shown one thing, and then they come back home and it's something else. And then we wonder why some of our children develop some behavioral health issues in first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade. And then they're quick to put a label on them when oftentimes it's just they need to sit down and have a conversation and find out, why do I think like that? Yeah. I asked this question because I want to know. That's a part of the learning process.
Right.
But back then, if you asked that, the only learning you got was to keep your mouth shut, or you were going to get something else.
Because you were never intended to learn.
Absolutely.
Because we were 3/4 of humans, so we didn't have a brain.
Absolutely.
But they're natural. But we're naturally curious.
Yeah.
I tell my son, be a leader, right? Every time you leave, be a leader. But then when he's at home, I want you to abide by what I'm telling you. Submit. I told you it's time for me to do that. But when you go be a leader, you do this, do that. We are confessing on the camera.
Come on, confession.
Because I'm trying to say I want a critical awakening even in my own family.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Come on, Larissa.
This is
I felt it.
it's so systemic.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So this series that we're in is relationships. And although this is Black History Month, all of this is systemic. It's relational. You know what I mean? To your point, I'll just shift. To your point, we can create cognitive dissonance. You know what I mean? In our families, in our children, and even in the generations to come. If we are to, I guess, bring about this awakening, or I don't even want to say wokeness, right? Right, because that's got a negative connotation. But if we are going to be awake, we really have to see, like, the facts. We have to see the truth. We have to see, like, the lens that we're looking through. It has to be adjusted. It has to be cleaned. It has to be renewed.
That's good.
We have to put our habits on trial.
Come on, preach. We have to put our habits on trial.
Jeez. Because it's a habit. A lot of these things are just innate. It's second nature.
Learned behavior.
Yes. But you know how we were often, since we were, as we said in the last episode, we were raised in the same household at different addresses. Is I'm sure all of us here at this just do what you told.
Yeah.
And I remember having this conversation with a couple of the ladies here. And like I said, I was naturally inquisitive. I stay on to this day because they said knowledge is power, right? But it's contradictory when I'm trying to get knowledge. But if I keep you dumb, I can keep you a slave. But to my point, so let me get back because y'all know I get passionate about this. My husband just smiling at me. But it's true. If I keep you dumb, then I can keep you in bondage. I can keep you a slave.
Which is why you weren't supposed to learn. You weren't supposed to learn to read. And the women, like we were talking about off camera,
Come on, Miss
that the
King.
women snuck and learned to read.
Because they forgot about them. Go ahead, break that down.
They snuck, they learned how to read, and then they would secretly teach their children how to read. Now you have some males that would really know how to read, but they had to act like they did. And over time, what that did is people would start to become educated. And so they're still trying to suppress the Black man, and they forgot about the Black woman. She continued to read, she continued to learn, and now the Black woman is the most educated woman in America. And what the system has done is they've backed themselves into a corner. Right now, we need you to have at least a high school diploma for you to do anything, get a good job, this, that, and other. When Blacks start getting high school diplomas, then they say you need to have an associate's degree. And then now it's a bachelor's degree. Now everybody's walking around getting masters and PhDs. Now what are they going to do?
Right.
Now they back themselves in a corner where you don't have anything to say, well, you have to have this to get it because it would benefit them and keep the other person down.
And to your point, if I can say, which we've very well seen, and let's be honest, while we're here, because we are all educated at this table with several degrees apiece, okay? It's still not good enough.
It's
Because another mantra, if you will, that were taught in our households to us, and I have not said it to my children, our children, one time, that you have to work twice as hard to be considered half as good.
Never have I ever.
That I've never spoke. Now, that leads us to the point of us exhausting ourselves as people of color just to be accepted. Because with identity, I'm going to say this piece and then I'm going to be quiet for a while. But with identity, okay, so let me share with y'all what we were talking about off camera. They was like, we just need to hit record. We do this every time. Me growing up as a child, I remember my father used to watch Westerns all the time. And I'm not just talking about Bonanza and Gunsmoke. I'm talking about taking it all the way back to the black and white before that. And I hated it. I thought I hated it because we only had one TV. We had Humble Beginnings. You know, you had those 3 channels and daddy got to watch TV and that was it. Okay. Now I'm not talking about my daddy. I'm just keeping it real. So I despised it. Then I ended up marrying a man from Texas that loves Westerns. And I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? And one particular time in the last couple of years, he was watching it. So of course I'm gonna sit down with my husband and watch it. And I just looked at it from a different purview. Okay. Larisha just talked about a different lens, adjusting it. And I looked with my counselor mind instead of my actual, and I was like, that's how they did it. So what I couldn't understand, and we're keeping it real, you know, I'm that one, is I couldn't understand how in the United States of America, the white woman was always considered to be the symbol and the standard of beauty to the point that, you know, natural hair and all this other kind of stuff in the workplace, Black women would not get positions or promoted. And we were always told it's because of how you look. It's because of your hair. So we fried, dye, laid to the side with this hair, right? Burning out our scalp, all of that, chemicals causing cancer and everything. In the back of our mind, we have to work twice as hard to be considered half as good. So I never could understand that in the United States until I watched the Western. Because in the Western, and y'all gonna watch it different from now on out. Go watch it, I encourage you. But in the Western, there was always, and I'm just calling it what it is, there was always a white woman And this is what I told them. I own it. That's how we went from the Western to the 2025, 2024 Karen, okay? Because if you look at that, she's crying out, oh, save me. Oh my God, he's scaring me. You know, all the things. And I'm not talking about y'all because remember, I got it in my family. So I'm just saying. However, it would always be a white male dressed in blackface Indian style, is what I'm going to say, that was in a bush or looking out. And she's just so scared. And who would come and save the day? A white man on a horse. That's how I believe, Chantrell, that the indoctrination continued as to why we were less than. Because if it wasn't a black-faced Indian, as they did back then, it was a black male that was threatening the white woman. And so here we are. So we wonder why relationships, as we talk about, are so strained, especially between the ethnicities, because it's continuing to happen.
But
I'm done.
I just want to piggyback off of the whole
Piggy.
Western thing,
Yes,
especially the damsel in distress thing that they passed on. Do y'all remember as kids, as little girls, you would watch the cartoons or the cartoons would come on or they would read the fantasy books? I remember like the fantasy books and whatnot you would read. It would always be, and he showed up on a horse, on his white horse. And rode and rescued her and grabbed her up and kissed her passionately and they drove off into the sunset. It was never a black woman.
Ever.
It was never a black woman. Even in the cartoons. Ever. Even in the cartoons, you would see the princess was always white. Kudos, shout out to the ones who are now portraying the black girls and
come on,
Tiana.
Okay. Princess and the Frog.
The Little Mermaid.
Come on.
Bring it. Thank y'all for that. But how many years did we go through seeing that you have to look like this in order to be saved, in order to be cared for, in order to be loved, in order for somebody to see you, you have to look like this.
You have to look weak.
You got to look weak and then you got to be beautiful. And with the beautifulness, you got to have pure white skin and you have to have blonde hair.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Look, she came out with it like, but that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah. Biggest point, you have to look weak. And that's the one thing that black women has never been.
Or look
as weak.
Right. And then we was always seen as a threat because we were the what? Angry black woman.
Yes. Because of the strength that we had to possess, the strength that we had to embody. We had to.
If you saw your husband get hung, or you saw your husband,
my God,
get what you gonna do for your kids because they're with you too.
Watching it,
you literally have to
pick everything up.
You got to pick everything up.
So go ahead. I saw your finger.
I mean,
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, so aside from like maintaining the home, I mean, they have to provide.
Mm-hmm.
They had to protect. I mean,
doctor,
save everything. Yes.
Oh my God, it just hit me.
Yes. Do it. Yes.
My God, today. Oh, help me. Okay. So in today's time, I'm gonna say two things real quick. In today's time, and not even today's time, even in our childhood, they would always speak about how the black male was never in the home.
Right. That's it.
But let's go back to some accountability. The black men were in the home.
Yes,
they were taking care of their homes.
Yes, they were.
They got snatched up out of their homes and they got murdered.
Yes, they did.
So now we're coming down on the black men and some black women. Because let me tell them myself. Let's go back to this Willie Lynch letter, The Making of a Slave. It is one part that she's going to bring up here in a bit, probably, as we flow through this. Mm-hmm. But how I found out about the Willie Lynch letter was an employee that I had when I was working at a certain agency. She was not raised in the United States, and it was just a general conversation. And she said, Miss Chantrell, have you ever heard of the Willie Lynch letter, The Making of a Slave? And I said, no, what is that? And she was like, they didn't teach y'all that in school? She was actually from West Indies, Grenada. They fall under the Caribbean. And I said, no. The only thing they taught us about is white history. I'm from Oklahoma. The 5 civilized tribes, and we might, if we was lucky, got a little bit of Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. That was it, period. So she told me, now my employee told me, her supervisor, your homework for tonight is to go home and read The Making of a Slave. When I read it, not only did my blood boil, okay? And me and my husband were at odds at that time. We were in a horrible point in our marriage, okay? I'm just keeping it real with y'all because we relationship counselors, right? When I read it, I'm looking at it, I'm crying, I'm mad, I'm going through all the emotions, the feelings that we were talking about in the previous show. And I said, wait a minute. You mean to tell me this is how they plan for this to be? Mm-hmm. You plan for me to be the strong Black woman coming against my husband? You plan for our children to see us not on one accord? Are you serious?
But can I just add just a little bit with that?
Mm-hmm.
And they incentivize the women for doing it.
Yes.
And outside of slavery,
right?
You got an incentive for keeping him out.
Yes.
Your home.
And it's still
yes, and it is.
Let me take care of you. The government, let me take care of you, but he can't be there.
Yes. And
I'll give you this.
Systemic, y'all.
Systemic.
It's
and it's still going on. And so to the point, now wrap it up. When I looked at that, I sat in it, and this is before I became a counselor. I was mad at myself, I'm going to be honest, because another mantra that we were taught, you got to be a strong Black woman and don't depend on a strong ending with an R word for nothing. So that was being passed down through our generations, probably because that's what they were told in slavery. And then it changed my lens, as Larisha said, and I started looking at him for who he is and who he was at that time. And not only that, I was also praying to God at that time. God allowed me to see people's hearts.
Yeah.
So here I am with a good man who trying. He wasn't perfect, baby, because I wasn't either. Good man that's trying. He's at home. He's dealing with me. He's raising our children and serving our military at the same time. And I'm tripping. When somebody else over here getting beat upside the head, and he ain't never raised his hand to me. But all because that was the plan that is said in the Willie Lynch letter, and he ended it, as I said in the last episode. If you follow these guidelines, you will have slaves for 400 plus years. We may not have been still slaves in bondage and chains, but we were slaves in our mind. And we don't even want to go to get counseling to get free. How many marriages will be saved if you changed your lens purview and got in here and actually read what was designed to keep us separated? Sorry, I'm done.
No.
So for now.
You make a good point, but what we have to understand is this effort that was set up through those letters and a lot of other things that have been done, understand it is working systemically. One wheel is turning that way to turn another wheel that way to turn another wheel that way. All of this was designed to keep individuals down. From a behavioral health or mental health perspective, we also have to look at what it does economically to individuals, because you've been scarred. This happened to you. You were in slavery. You watched a bunch of stuff. Now that has impacted you from a negative standpoint in your mind. But now you won't go to see a professional to help you understand that and help it enhance your quality of life. So you carry that on. Now it goes to your children. For some of us in this day and age, they've made that decision to say, no, I'm going to go and get that help. Now the rising costs of healthcare is preventing individuals from getting that as well.
My God.
And so now that they want to get the help, they can't afford it because it's too high. And insurance companies are doing their best to keep stuff at a certain way. And what that does, that's going to increase the amount of anxiety that African Americans have. It increases the suicide rate. It increases crime, which turns around and puts you right into the system that they designed in the federal prisons. So we have to understand it's all these wheels turning with one another. And in an effort to stop all of that, what really needs to happen is a collaborative and collective effort for individuals of color and those who support us to get together and say, this needs to stop. Get the help that you need. let's go against some of these things that they're trying to put in the law and some things they already have in the law, because in the sight of God, all men are equal, but in the sight of man, it's something that's totally different.
My.
Y'all, this is a lot.
It is a lot. Yeah.
It is. It really is to be pulling back the layers and exposing. I feel like that's what we're doing. We're exposing the things that has been for so many years tried to be covered up.
Mhm.
And covered up, well, we did let y'all do this. We gave y'all that. But then, like you said, with the education, you were able to be educated, but then you keep raising the bar
Yeah.
every single time.
Yeah.
You have insurance, you can get insurance, but you keep raising the bar as to what level of care I can get with the insurance I do have. It's like a never ending thing, but until we come together
Mhm.
to actually do something about it, we're gonna continue in that cycle. We have to do something about it. We have to unite in a way, not to say we unite to cause an uprising. No, we want to unite to come together so that we can create change, because change is what is needed. And I know a lot of people will say, well, it don't matter. It's just we're a smaller group. That's because you're a small group. But when you come together, you become mighty.
Right.
Oh my God, the things that can be done if we all got on one accord and start speaking the same language.
Oh, identity. This just came to my mind and I didn't want to forget this. When people say that are not of African American, as you say, labeled as African American in the United States and or around the world, because we're speaking specifically to us here in the United States. However, this is the same thing around the world. In different countries, we're seeing this being said. For those of you who say, oh, they're just making up and because that's what people do when you don't want to address and accept your part in it and make change, then you make it seem like it's them, right? Mm-hmm. Think about this, and it still goes on to this day. This just happened to me, not like in the last couple of weeks. We're uniting, and we want you all to keep this in the forefront of your mind. It's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. But I'm just going to be honest. Even today, when we get together as people of color, even if me and you are minding our business and we're at work, let's say we're in a work setting and we're laughing and joking and we're talking about, maybe natural hair. It could be anything. Have y'all ever noticed how white people get nervous today?
Mm-hmm.
What are they doing? What are they talking about? To the point where they'll come and interject or send someone else to interject in the conversation because I got to know what you're talking about. That happened in the 50s. That happened in the 60s. That happened in slavery.
Or to break it up.
Right.
So the protests, even coming together to protest, even coming together to say what we don't like, or not even just saying what we don't like, but coming together to commune with one another.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anytime there's a crowd, we got to disperse that. Break that up.
Somebody going to call the cops. They're going to send somebody in to do something. Yeah. And then it was us that started it. So I bring that up to say, for those of you to say, oh, they're just making it up. That don't still happen this day. I want you to watch it in your workplace. I want you to watch it out in the community. Ooh. And if you see 2 or 3 Black people, let's just be honest. 2 or 3 Black people come together. It is a known fact that white people get nervous. So my question is, for those who may be listening that are Caucasian in the United States or around the world, ask yourself, why do you get nervous? Because it's not like it's any activity that's going on to hinder you. Is it a point of acceptance that you want to be accepted? I'm just throwing it out there.
No, that's I like that. They have to look at it through a different lens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to put your shoe on the other foot to see what it's really like. I want to offer the people something. We know this affects individuals in a negative way, but what happens when you experience that, and how do you handle that at that particular point? And I think one of the best things that you can do, number one, is to stop what you're doing, really process what has happened or what you have seen in front of you. After you finish that process and decide which way you need to go, taking the appropriate legal action, and then trying to make change. But sometimes you just have to let a person know exactly what it is that they're doing, call it out, and just go from there. And I'll give you a prime example. My wife and I went to Las Vegas to celebrate a birthday party of one of our really good friends, our children's godfather. And we broke off from the group that we were in. And I think a couple of us went to a very, very high-end store. As we approached the store, my wife and her friend walked into the store, and my buddy and the other lady's husband was kind of standing outside, and we decided to go in. Gentleman comes out that was Caucasian and puts a barrier in front and said only so many people can be allowed in the store at one time. And I said, really? I said, well, how many is it? And I think he said like 5 or 6. I said, well, before we got here, there was like 8 or 9 Caucasian individuals in here, but you didn't pull that up until we came in.
Mm-hmm.
And so some people came out. Some people came out, you two can come in. And as we came in, everywhere we went, he followed us. And finally, I just went up and I said, hey, I know what it is that you're doing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove myself from the store. And what I did, I don't have my wallet clip on me. I pulled out every credit card. I can buy everything in the store if I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But because of your actions and your beliefs that I know you have, I will take my service somewhere else. Mm-hmm. What we have to understand as African Americans, we can't let them take away this.
Mm-hmm.
The minute we get in our feelings and our emotions is exactly what some individuals want us to do. And because we're not going to go anywhere and talk to somebody about what went on, we enslave ourselves once again.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we do that, we want to act out, do, damage and harm and all that stuff. And that's not the way to go.
Right.
I understand if you got to protect yourself, do what you got to do.
Right.
But the best way to solve, in my opinion, this issue that we have with discrimination that causes a lot of this behavioral health issues, you got to hit them where it hurts. And when I say hit them where it hurts, it has already been laid out for us. My best friend always says this. He said, hey, I got kids. I'm trying to tell them I've already taken the test. So when I hand you the answers to the test, why are you afraid to take the test? Because I've already been through it. Just take the answers. Martin Luther King, other individuals that have came before us has marked the way and said, hit them where it hurts, which is in their pockets.
Right. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
If we support our Black-owned businesses, if we support those that support us, you will start to see a change. Look at what they did with the bus boycotts.
Mm-hmm.
So all you gotta do, quit going to the places that are gonna take your money but treat you like a dog, and go somewhere where your money is gonna return back to your community.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell people this, and then I'm gonna shut up. If I go to an establishment and I hand you money and you put that money on the counter and not in my hand, you already told me what you're about.
Right.
I'm not going back there again.
Mm-hmm.
It's about respect. It's about treating the individual as an equal. And then what I have to understand is that if I had a child with me and they saw that, well, Daddy, why didn't the lady put the money in your hand? If I have to go and explain that to that child, then guess what happens to them? They get a little scar.
Mm-hmm.
And then something else happened, and then there's another scar. And then they wonder why when we bottle all that up, now we have a 12, 13-year-old African-American male that they label as a bad child, when really it's the stuff that's going on around them and the systemic destruction that they're trying to do that puts them in that situation, that leads them right from what they call from the pipeline from school straight to prison.
Mm-hmm. School to prison pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So I've been sitting here just thinking, so like, what do we do with all of this?
Mm.
I mean, we definitely do exactly what we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Talk and communicate and process,
Mm-hmm.
the thoughts and feelings. But I think empowerment
Yes.
is important. I think this new cliche thing is out there now, but it says a space for joy and healing, and it's coming out in the media, TV shows, and it's showing us, being represented in ways that, hey, I see this person, leading in this way. I want to be that. It's celebrating us.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Also, I think we need to also redefine some things. You know, redefine how we're represented, redefine what marriage looks like, you know, in the Black family, what family looks like, you know what I mean, in the Black family. We need to really like look at the narrative, you know what I mean, the facts, you know what I mean, that have been spoken on us, in us, through us, you know what I mean, throughout the time. But you know, this is a heavy thing, y'all. A lot can be done to heal. A lot can be done to heal.
I wanted to say, let me say this piece. I'm very proud of our children's generation. Now, I'm not inciting violence when I say this, but I will say, I remember when I first seen the saying, and you all may have seen it too, we are not our ancestors. We know we're you know, of that lineage, but we are not our ancestors. Now, I understand in the way that they said it. However, I also take that from a mental health, and some of y'all caught that. I also understand from a mental health perspective, though, they are not our ancestors because they have no problem going to get the counseling. They have no problem speaking how they feel. You know what I'm saying? You may have some, they still feel suppressed depending on, but then I also I'm going to say some of our generation who, and I always say that, either I'm going to go with the elders and do what they've always done, because that's how we've always done it in our family. And that's why so many Black sheeps are created now, because you have your own mindset. You're no longer with the corral mindset. You see things from a different lens because you've decided to go and seek counseling and change a lot of these traumatic experiences that you've been through and or heard that have been passed down through the family. But these young children, these young adults, I'm not going to call them, well, let me see, kind of gauge. Our children are from 16 to about 8. Okay, so 8. Okay, so let's go with the young adults. So we have one is 19, that's an adult, up until, what would you say, 28 years old? And I love the conversations I can say that I have with them, because even our 16-year-old, it's like, okay, what's on your mind? We check in every day. What are you going through? How did you feel when this happened? Let's be honest. That girl, how did you feel when the election happened? What did you think? We know how we felt and what we thought. How did you feel we've had to have those difficult conversations with our son? Like Kenya said, to see that somebody, because 9 times out of 10, we don't watch news like this. So they come to tell us somebody else got murdered. Okay, let's stop. What are you thinking right now, and how do you feel? You see what I'm saying? So we check in is what I'm saying. So when you ask, like, kind of what can we do to, I'm going to say, change the narrative, if you will, let's get the help that we need and start checking in and allow, first we got to do it. Go to counseling. Learn how to establish our voice. Okay.
Say that.
Learn how, that's what counseling does, because a lot of us, especially in the Black community, we were to be seen and not heard. You are to stay in a child's place. We got diminished down to nothing by our own parents.
When do you become an adult? When do you get into your adult
You
place?
don't.
Come on, we don't, because it still says it's 5-year-old.
Not according to older generations.
Yeah.
They don't see you as coming up to that adult space and being that adult. You are still a child to them. And that's still coming down from that generational, that transgenerational trauma that we're talking about. You are to be seen and not heard. Where did it come from?
Slavery.
Where did it come from? Exactly. So all of this is being passed down, and so we're still being seen as this. So when you have our kids, the older ones who are now speaking out more on things, some of the older generations, like, y'all just disrespectful.
Sassy.
Y'all
say that myself.
Let's keep it real.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But then when you really think about it, it's that generational thing of stifling the voice. You don't get to use your voice unless I tell you can. What? Like, so at what point, like you said, Rachel, at what point do I become an adult? At what point do I get to use my voice? I can't tell you how many clients I see in the counseling room who don't have a voice. And they're in their 30s and 40s and 50s. And they're finding themselves at this stage of the game. Like, wow.
Well, I mean, think about this generational, how things been passed down. So there's a shift
There
now.
you go.
Yeah,
That's
definitely a shift is happening.
There you go.
Definitely. And instead of us seeing it as disrespectful, we need to embrace it and be glad that they're ready to speak up and speak out, because that's how change is going to happen. If y'all want this whole slavery narrative to shift, then you got to allow the kids, the young adults, to use their voice. Because obviously, and I don't want to say not all of us, not all of our parents were silent. There are some, because that's how shift started to happen. Things started to happen because people, instead of walking to the cliff and just walking over because everybody else was dealing, it's like, hold up, why are we walking to the cliff? Why am I going to the cliff? I ain't going to the cliff. Like you said, instead of standing in line and waiting to be slapped, if you see the first 3 people getting slapped, you know what's coming for you. Would you still stay in the line? No, I'm getting out of line. And a lot of people question that, because why aren't you doing what everybody else doing? Well, do you see what's happening?
Right.
If you stay here, if we stay here, we know what's going to happen. We just listened to Stacey Abrams earlier today on a video that she recorded about. We have to insist that change happen. If we stay where we are, the same thing is going to continue to happen.
Right.
We have to change.
We have to shift.
Yes.
We have to shift. Galatians 5:1, ESV version says, "For freedom Christ has set us free." That's my favorite scripture. For freedom, he has set us free. Stand firm, therefore, do not submit again to a yoke of slavery.
Don't submit again.
Do not.
Don't do it again.
Don't do it again.
That's right.
Come on now.
That's right.
We did it before.
Right?
Don't do it again.
And that's New Testament. So, well, everybody, we don't do Old Testament. That's New Testament. Wow.
Let that marinate. Meditate on that scripture and just look at how we're called to freedom. So that's the bottom line. You're called to freedom. So you have to live as such. So read the Willie Lynch letter. Do the opposite of what he instructed them to do, or to condition our minds. Do the opposite. Walk in your absolute freedom.
I'm thinking about the Freedom song by Beyonce.
And I just see her stomping in that water on the stage. Okay.
I don't understand. With liberty and justice for sorry, I just took you somewhere else. Okay. So being that many of us at this table have served in the military, I'm going to share with you something that bothered me so much. Let me say this. You know how the word of God says, my people shall perish for the lack of knowledge. Okay. And I remember when Colin Kaepernick took a knee. And I remember all the uproar from Caucasian individuals in this country. And I could tell that many of them did not serve in the United States military, because they were saying, he's being disrespectful to our flag. Y'all seen it. Y'all seen it. And then, no NFL team want to pick him up because he didn't conform. He didn't remain in bondage. Okay. And so what I thought was interesting is these same individuals that was saying that he was being disrespectful to our flag, who probably some did serve, but some did not. The ones who serve understand that there is a flag code. So what do you do for the 4th of July? You sit in your 4th of July chairs with your 4th of July flag shirt on, and your 4th of July, that is against the flag code. I bring that up to say that's disrespectful to our country and our flag. Let's go to the national anthem. While we were talking about in the last hour, we'll talk about history and bring it to the present. when we would have events in the military and it would be welcome home ceremonies and different things like that, and, everybody's out on the parade field, I'm taking us down memory lane. I remember one particular time I was asked to sing the Star Spangled Banner. Of course, I served. I'm proud. And this, that, and other. Until I found out about stanza 2 and stanza 3.
Yep.
So I want you all to understand that's listening, because I know y'all listening and lurking in the shadows, and we welcome that. Because maybe you're gaining understanding and you won't perish for the lack of knowledge. When you read stanza 2 and stanza 3, it is talking about slaves. I bet you didn't know that while you're, say, can you see? Now what I do is I may not place my hand over my heart, and I'm just being honest. But another thing that they allow us to do is if you served in the military, you can stand at attention. And because of my service to the military, I will stand at attention. But I vowed I would never sing the national anthem again. Once I got knowledge that the second and third stanza dealt with slavery. So when we talk about how it all started, it was never designed for us to be included, Black people. But there are so many who sell their soul to be included, even if that include remaining in bondage.
Yep.
And I think one of the things we definitely have to understand when it comes from a behavioral health issue, they understood at that point in time, and they still understand it now, that fear is the thing that gives them the control. When you have someone that lives in fear, they're more likely to subject to what is being offered to them. And it's no difference than in the counseling room when a person comes in with a particular issue. We develop a treatment plan to say, what is the goals that we need to do to get you from 1 to 10, whatever the case may be. That is the same thing that we're going to have to do to help people of color that may have behavioral health issues or just going through the things that we talked about. We can't get overwhelmed with fear. Because when we do, that is when they do more things to keep us down. I've seen burning crosses before. And a lot of it is a fear tactic.
Yeah.
Because you don't want them to come back. You don't want them to come do this, that, and the other. But what we've seen now in America has been a shift. There is a change in narratives, is that we were born in this country. We have fought for this country. We have built this country. And why should I be subjected to fear, mental torment for something that other people did way back when, and it's still trickling down the line? So at what point does it stop? And that's the hard question that we may not ever get an answer to. But at some point, we have to stand up. We have to unite. We have to take care of ourselves as a whole and try to change the narrative that has been written for us. If I had to do a job interview, or let's say do a resume, I don't want her writing my resume and she knows nothing about me. But if that person writes a resume for me, then what does their resume look like? And guess who's going to end up getting that job? It's always about putting that individual down so you raise yourself up a little higher. And what we have to do is get together, and the knowledge that we learn from other individuals, we need to teach others. The whole thing they used to say, to each one, teach one. We got to get educated. My people perish for a lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
When you hear things that benefit you or someone else, keep that going. But sometimes what we want to do is, like our late pastor said, we want to get a can, get all that we can, and then sit on the can so nobody else can have it.
Yep.
You got to spread that knowledge. And with that, we can back down this fear, because this is the thing. This is the thing that I think that we fail to understand. I asked you guys in the first segment that we did if you were afraid of snakes. And one thing that helped me get over my fear of snakes is that I came across so many. I've never been bitten. I've never had one that strike at me, but I had uncles that I would go hunting with, and they said, boy, that snake is just afraid of you as you are of it. And when wait a minute, what do you mean? And then I ran up on one and was like, oh, he sides off. Oh, they are afraid of me. It's the same thing when it comes to racism and things of that nature. There's a fear of them. And what we have to understand is we just have to stand our ground. And so my point can be proven because I've seen it several times. Be a Black man and get in an elevator with a Caucasian woman. And you will see the fear. And some people, why are you clutching your perch? I ain't trying to steal that. But that's what they'll do. Be a Black man and be running out jogging in a all-white neighborhood and they say you're not supposed to be there. It's a fear. Why do you think they used to have community pools and say, well, we don't want Black people here? It's a fear of you taking over, being better than them, being a part of them, because that's not what some people in society want.
So what I'm hearing you say is that they're afraid of being erased.
Okay, so
I like that.
I'm gonna tell you something that really stood out to me that has changed my mindset, and I have a goal in 2025. I was watching a Instagram video with a young man who interviewed a Caucasian male and asked him, say, hey, this is not political in any type of way. This just happened this way. Why did you vote for this particular person? Oh, I voted for that person for one particular reason, because I'm more worried about the white race and keeping it alive for the most part than anything else. So that shows you the thing that they started way up there to put fear in us, to put us in slavery and bondage, the system is still working through certain individuals. And what we have to do is start standing up, combining. When somebody starts having some issues here, get them the help that they need.
Right.
Don't let that thing keep going on knowing that a person is hurting and you don't do anything about it. If I was walking down the street and saw somebody bleeding, hey, do you realize you're bleeding? Let me put a bandage on it. Let's clean that wound up. What we have to do, we have to quit falling for the okie doke. And that's what's happened for so long. Hey, you know what? I understand what you're trying to do. You need housing. You want a house over your head for your children, but your husband or your boyfriend got to go. And they fall for it.
I'm going to give you this, though, if you let him, you get him out.
Absolutely. Separation individual.
Separation. Going right back to the whole slavery thing. You know, now it's like you can't forcefully take the Black man out of the house, but you can give an incentive, like I said earlier, for him to not be there.
Right. So,
and we can enslave him for free labor by sending him to jail for petty stuff.
Right. For long periods of time.
Yeah.
And so what does that do? I don't know if I'm that person. I like to, man, if I'm going to jump in the water, I'm going to the bottom and go deep and come back up. When you have that separation there, then one thing really happens. You separate that man from that woman, there's no children that come out.
So I'm afraid of being
a model.
I'm afraid of being erased. So let me make sure that my race stays above and yours diminishes. So I don't create. Oh, this can go even deeper, y'all. Because even with the women, and I know, Shan, I'm finna give it to you.
We're going over, and it's gonna be okay. Because this question gonna take you out. I'm telling you.
But with the women, the Black women not being cared for as we're birthing babies and dying in childbirth and not getting the proper care, the children dying and all of the things.
Miscarriages and dying in emergency because we can't get a DNC.
So you stop things in that way, make it seem like you had nothing to do with it, but that's whole systemic thing we're talking about, and taking the healthcare to a point where it's not accessible to you enough to where your race does not continue to grow.
And look at it deeper. The scars that are left on those women from a behavioral health standpoint, when they don't, postpartum depression.
So I'm not gonna do it again.
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna have a baby.
Absolutely. So the separation and all that stuff that's there, it's designed to keep individuals down. And tell me how many of y'all known a Black man, a person of color, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, whatever, that is trying their best to support their family, get a job, do all that stuff, but they keep running into walls. But you may find an individual that's of that opposite color. They can have the same stuff there and they get through the system.
So this is my burning question. I'm going to ask y'all, the country coming out. And I'm going to ask them, why is it going under the mantra that I said that we have to work twice as hard to be considered half as good? So we work twice as hard. And I can say this at this table because we all are in this area. We obtain nice things through our hard work. So why do white people, why y'all get mad at us? Why do y'all try to run us off the road in our nice vehicles? Why do you try to call the cops on us? And this is in this day and time that this is still taking place when we've worked hard for it. We've went to school, we've spent the money, we've studied, we've walked the stage, we've got the job. Why? Why do y'all think that in this day and age, that is still a problem with because we're in a nice house, like he said, the young man that got murdered in that night, that running in that neighborhood that he lives in. Why? Why?
The one word that I just talked about that they wanted to instill in us, they have it as well.
Fear.
Fear. Fear. And if I'm not mistaken, I hope I get this right. I want to say, oh God, I can't remember if it was Phil Donahue or Geraldo. Old talk show that used to come on TV. And the honorable
age, can you?
I know.
Y'all go Google that.
The honorable Louis Farrakhan was on there and he was speaking. And there was a white lady there that asked him a question. And he pretty much said, the reason why you are fearful of people of color, for the most part, is because you're afraid that if we ever come to power, we will do to you what you did to us. What your ancestors did to us.
Which is why I don't want you to grow. I don't want your race to grow. Which is why I want to keep you uneducated. Which is why I want to keep you down. I don't want you to be healthy. Which is why I want to take away all of the things that would help you unite. Which is why I want to continuously pull you apart and set you against one another.
Have you ever seen a person that is defeated in their mind? They have low self-esteem. They've got some other behavioral health issues that are going on. We know as therapists that if you don't take care of this, it can transpire and come out in the body.
Manifest in many different dis-ease.
There you go.
Is in the body.
Right. So we're working twice as hard to be considered twice as good, right? So we're doing all this work. We're stressing ourselves out. And we may not be getting the same things that they're getting. And some of them are just standing there, just chilling. But then when you drop over dead, so we got to slow down. We got to get that stress up off of us. And I will tell you, and I'll probably get in trouble for it, but this is just person I am. This is my free will, First Amendment.
Come on, sir, First Amendment.
I've worked at a place for 11 years. And I have went to town for that organization. I got my first award about a week ago. 11 years. I have been talked about. People ask me my education level, how I got a job. It didn't deter me from what I wanted to do because number one, and I'm going to tell this to people of color that are working their butts off in that way, when I go to work, I'm not going to work for that paycheck or that person that may be signing that paycheck. I'm on a different call because I believe my job is my ministry. And anytime you're doing ministry unto God, your reward comes from somewhere else. And so this is the thing that separates individuals that work really hard. You have to understand why they're working when they're doing that unto the Lord. There's a difference between a reward and an award. So you get an award, you only get it one time. But when you get a reward from God because of what you're doing, it happens over and over and over again. So while I may not have a lot of stuff packed up on the wall, I got some stuff packed up on the heavenly. But that is the only thing.
Take off.
So the reason why I say that is we got to keep pushing. We have to keep working, but we have to enjoy ourselves. From a behavioral health standpoint, nothing wrong with going to work, but you got to take some time.
Right.
If your boss says that you got to be at work at 7:30 and you got to work to 4:30, work 7:30 to 4:30. If they come up with stuff after that, all right, we need to be talking about this overtime or comp time. What are we talking about?
Or
here?
tomorrow.
Or tomorrow.
Look,
Yeah.
I'm going home.
Or the next business.
That's it.
day.
Right.
We got to quit doing that thing where we are just doing over, above, and beyond for individuals that don't care. Put that same energy in supporting your local church. Put that same energy in supporting Black businesses. Put that same energy into your children to make sure they're getting the education, make sure they're protected and cared for. We have put too much energy in the fact that we need to work because from a slave mentality, that's all we knew how to do.
Free
work.
labor.
Yeah.
Oh, so free yourself
Yes.
from providing the labor that other people want you to provide. Free your
Free.
free
Yeah.
free yourself.
You are called to be free.
Come on.
Listen, I go back to, from a spiritual perspective, the words deliverance and renouncing. And I believe that there's the spirit of poverty, it's the spirit of slavery that we as people have to be delivered from daily, and we need to renounce. So I'll give you definition. Deliverance means the action of being rescued or set free, or a formal or authoritative utterance. So that means you need to speak. I am no longer. I declare it. I decree. You have to renounce. Renounce means to formally declare one's abandonment of. So you saying, I refuse to abide by Willie Lynch principles. Because his principle, and I'm just tie this in, is to weaken the man, right? Mentally, make him psychologically dependent, but make the woman independent. So you have to do two things: be delivered daily through the blood of Jesus and just through your own words. You can utter it every day. I refuse to work 10 times harder. I'm worthy. Whatever I produce is good. Right? I'm not going to work for free. So working, beyond when the clock is turned off, you no longer going to work beyond those hours. No, that is called slavery, free labor.
Free labor.
So I just want to encourage you to look at it from this spiritual perspective of declaring and for deliverance, and then renouncing, just making that formal declaration, no longer.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
Is it almost time?
We actually ran overtime, but it was too good.
Amen.
I'm going to tell y'all this off camera then.
Okay.
I want to quickly, if we can give something quick, as you were talking and reading those definitions, I said, okay, what is it that we need to denounce? And so I said, I denounce other people's definitions of who I should be, and I become who I declare I am.
Can I do that too?
Yeah. Can you write it on paper?
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's good.
That is good.
That's good.
Announce it. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I have scripture because we were talking about, so as we're closing community and coming together. And so Mark 3:25, and if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. So we cannot stand as a people if we continue to allow ourselves to be divided.
That's good.
Clock it.
I was just going to say, so a few times this evening, the scripture Hosea 4:6 was referenced. And it says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. But the latter part of that says, because they reject it. So on this evening, we're talking about the history of things that happened and that transpired, that has been brought about from generation to generation. If you reject this knowledge, you will remain in bondage.
Woo! My God.
Absolutely. And I'll leave everybody with this. I've always heard this and said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. You can be sick and tired all you want to, but if you don't put no action behind it, it's still the same thing. And so what we have to do is, if we're tired of something, we have to band together as a community, work with individuals to make a change, to make a difference.
Yes.
I'm good.
She said she agreed with you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we thank you all so much for joining us here tonight at Talk Therapy Heal. We know that this was a really heavy topic. We hope, though, that something that was said between part 1 and part 2 just penetrates your mind, your body, your spirit, that causes you to want to do something different, that causes you to want to rise up and unite with someone else so that you can have effective change or put effective change in place. Thank y'all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Before you log off, though, we want y'all to do us a little favor. We want you to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because we promise we got more to come, y'all. This is just a snippet of all of the things that we will be bringing here to the table at Talk Therapy Heal. Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.